There's a moment in the Ramayana people whisper about like a secret shrine. But it's also a test. How can a curse be lifted by someone who, at first, seems like the wrong person to fix it? Stay with me, because this story doesn't just talk about Ahalya. It talks about truth itself. Listen closely, because the Ramayana hides its biggest lessons inside stories that look almost ordinary. Ahalya's story is one of those. People mention it quietly, like they're not sure what they're allowed to say out loud. Here's the mystery. There's a curse. There's a woman at the center of it. And there's a consequence that feels hard to understand. At first glance, it looks like the usual pattern. Someone did something wrong, someone gets hurt, the end. But if you stay with it, you'll notice it's not only about pain. It's about what happens to Dharma when hidden wrongdoing breaks the moral order. And then, slowly, how Dharma comes back when truth steps in. So now the question is the real one. How can truth restore Dharma when the damage already feels done? First, the quiet. Ahalya is introduced in a sacred place, and that matters. In this tradition, hermitages and sages aren't just locations. They're living moral worlds. In many tellings, Ahalya's home with her husband, the sage Gautama, is about restraint and spiritual seriousness. Truth isn't something people toss around there. It's the foundation of daily life. So imagine what it means when deception cracks that world. The story keeps pointing to concealment, to something happening out of sight. Then comes the intrusion. A higher power is involved, and one name matters in most common tellings: Indra. The story's logic is clear here. Desire leads to wrongdoing, and Ahalya gets caught in the consequences. And in many versions, Ahalya is transformed, often described in stone-like imagery. The emotional truth stays the same. She's trapped in stillness, as if the world must pause until truth arrives. So the curse isn't only punishment. It's also a warning that deception has consequences that echo long after the moment ends. Now we meet Gautama again, not like a distant figure, but like someone whose spiritual vision sees what ordinary life missed. The curse isn't treated as random. In the story's logic, Gautama's curse is the moment when hidden wrongdoing becomes named. And once it's named, the moral law starts to move. Ahalya is cursed into a still state in many tellings. But the hermitage changes too. What should be a living sanctuary starts to feel like moral silence. People avoid it without even wanting to admit why. If you're wondering why it lasts so long, the story answers quietly. Truth hasn't arrived fully yet. Not rumor, not half-correction. Restoration needs the rightful alignment. Next comes the waiting, and it's not just time passing. The long wait has meaning because the moral wound is still open. In many pakatellings, the area around Ahalya feels hard to pass, covered or obscured. It's as if the world learns to avoid that spot. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. You can feel how people might stop asking questions and accept the silence. But silence isn't resolution. And then the story shifts. It re-enters like a promise that truth will eventually step in and clear what's been stuck. Rama enters in a sacred way. His presence isn't shown like brute force. It's righteousness moving through the same spaces where wrongdoing once hid. One lesson lands here. The curse isn't lifted by pressure. It's lifted by the right personhood aligned with Dharma. Rama approaches the space tied to Ahalya's curse, still obscured in many tellings. Then he does something that sounds simple. He steps into the space. Not with arrogance, not with "I'll fix this" energy. It's like Dharma recognizing its own domain. His presence becomes the moment the moral universe stops holding its breath. And that touch begins the break in the curse. Ahalya returns, and the transformation unravels. The stillness ends. Restoration isn't abstract anymore. It's happening right there. But don't rush past the why. Why Rama and not anyone else? The story also spreads the investigation outward. Ahalya suffers, yes, but the moral investigation reaches beyond her. Indra's wrongdoing is part of the cause. Gautama's curse is the naming that makes the moral law move. Rama's presence becomes restoration. So the answer to the opening question lands clean. The wrong person wasn't wrong at all. Rama wasn't rescuing Ahalya from consequences. He was enacting Dharma, the rightful standard that can restore what concealment broke. And that's why the curse lifted the way it did. Hidden sin changes the moral weather, and truth restores alignment, step by careful step. Just like the story promised at the beginning.